The S25 series just dropped and I am actually going to be ordering one. But let's talk about why. So I know a lot of people, they see these phones and they're probably going to be like, it's disappointing. It's not as good as they want it to be. It's not as different. It's just the same phone as last year and all that stuff. I know I kind of feel that way in some ways as well. However, I do think the S25 series is an improvement nonetheless. When you're talking about, the more power, the efficiency, the better build quality, the durability, and then obviously the software continues to get better with Samsung devices. I think the S25s are going to be really good phones. And people look at yearly phone updates and think like, oh, it's the same as last year's. But the people who bought their phone last year, these phones are not necessarily for you. Samsung is not necessarily making this new phone for the S24 users. They're making it for the S23 and lower users, people from 2 years or more. So when you think about like upgrading from 2 years ago, the S25 phones are going to be amazing phones in terms of everything, like the power, the efficiency, the build quality, all the upgrades I think are going to be really nice. And now for me, the S25 Ultra looks really good. I know it's very similar to the 24, but I think it looks really good in terms of the aesthetic, the look of it, the way that the edges are curved. That's something that I really, really like. Like the Z Fold 6 is probably one of my favorite build quality devices and even like in-hand feel devices. And now that the S25 Ultra is slimmed down a little bit, it's lighter, and then it has the rounded edges, kind of like the Z Fold 6, I think it is peak design for Samsung devices right now. Like for me personally, I don't think smartphones need to change drastically in terms of how they look every single year. I feel like that is just kind of something that, online tech fans want. They want like something new, something different, but it's like realistically, all the people who are screaming for something different, how many of you are actually going to be buying the new phone when it comes out, If Samsung decides to drop a phone, like for example, a phone like this with this kind of design, of course there's going to be some people who like it, but a lot of people are going to be like, what is that? That's not Samsung. And, companies are making products for the average consumer. They're not making products for the, the high-end tech enthusiasts, people on tech YouTube and stuff like that. They are to some extent when they add like little features, like for example, shooting in log video now with the S25, that is really nice. They are in those senses, but for the most part, they're selling their phones. Majority of their phones are sold to average users. So if Samsung just came out with like a radically designed phone and it's just completely different from anything they've ever released, a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, what is this? It doesn't really make sense. So from a business standpoint, it makes sense to keep a design that is similar, but like slightly improved and subtly changed to, kind of reach where you want to go. And I feel like Samsung was experimenting for a while now with the S21, and they had like, the two plated design with the S21 series, and it was kind of cool and different, but then they kind of refined it and simplified it with the S22s. And then since the S22, they kind of been subtly changing it and making it better. And I feel like subtly changing it and improving it to what they want it to be. And I think with the S25s, like this is the combination of like literally 4 years of work. Like you can't just like change the design, out of nowhere. And so I think the way that they're doing it is getting their phones and the devices to a point where it just looks how they want it to look. And then that will be the staple. Like for example, iPhones, iPhones have looked pretty much the same for the last decade, but they, Apple subtly changes too. Like they'll go with rounded edges one year, then they'll go with like more squared off edges. And then, they'll change the camera shape and size and stuff like that. But over the years, Apple's iPhone design has always been like pretty consistent with the previous years. And it's just like subtle changes that lead up to a bigger change when you look back, 5 years in the future. And these subtle changes actually impact the daily use of the devices. Like for example, the S24 Ultra, it was a really amazing device. I think it was probably the best Android phone last year, but the ergonomics weren't the best. And I think with the S25s, with the rounded edges, the ergonomics will definitely feel better. And that's something that we kind of don't think about enough because you're using these phones every day. And like, especially when it's a product that is being sold for 7 years, or like the Samsung is promising 7 years of updates and they're increasing the durability and stuff like that. They're expecting people to, potentially use these phones for at least 7 years. Then you want to make it a comfortable phone. You want to make sure that the subtleties of the design just feels good in the hands and all these different things. And I know people use cases, but even the way that the phone is shaped and designed, cases will also accentuate that design as well. So yeah, the way I see it is just refinement every single year, slightly getting better. There are some things that are kind of disappointing, like the battery size being the same. I agree, like Samsung should have put a bigger battery, but at the same time, like I look at the battery stuff as like, is it necessary to increase the size, like, because some phones have like 5,900 milliamps versus 5,000, and it's like that difference is not, it's like very negligible. Like if we're talking about like just 900 to 1,000 milliamp difference, it's very negligible in terms of software optimization. Like there's companies who have these huge batteries and their devices are not performing well in terms of battery endurance because the optimization of the software is not that good, and vice versa. Like Apple has had small batteries for like forever, but their phones since like the iPhone 13s have been really amazing in terms of battery life and have been like the best or among the best in terms of smartphone battery life. And they had smaller batteries this whole time, but it's because of software optimization and stuff like that. I know iPhones do less things in terms of like, you know, background processes, multitasking, all that stuff, etc. But at the same time, it still is a phenomenon how Apple is able to optimize the battery with the smaller size batteries. Like battery size, like on one hand, it definitely can help, but at the same time, like 1,000 milliamp difference is not like, it's not the end of the world, and it's also not like a deal breaker or like a deal maker. Even 1,000 milliamps could literally be like a 30-minute difference, could be a 20-minute difference. Like it really depends on the manufacturer and the software optimization, the screen, you know, what you're doing on your phone, all that stuff, etc. Because even with the Z Fold 6, it has the 4,400 milliamp battery size, and with that phone, I'm still able to get, like towards the end of like having it, as you guys know, my Z Fold 6 was stolen from me, but towards the end of having that phone, I was getting around like 8 hours of screen on time, and I was playing games and stuff like that. I was doing, you know, work stuff. I was taking pictures using the camera, and I'm getting 8 hours of screen on time on that phone. So the software optimization for my Z Fold 6, at least in my experience, it became more optimized with every update, and the battery life was really good with that smaller battery. So battery size is very relative, and I think we kind of overblow it and hype it up. When it comes to these smartphones, at least, I feel like it really comes down to optimization. So, you know, it is kind of disappointing that it still has the same size battery as last year. But like last year, the S24 Ultra, when I had that phone, I was getting like 7 hours to 8 hours of screen on time as well. You know, 6 hours at the minimum, and 6 hours of screen on time is a pretty good battery if you ask me. And that's like that's a good minimum to have. If it worked last year and it even worked the year before that, like what are we really complaining about or getting mad about? Like I know the other phones, the Chinese phones, are getting bigger batteries, and that is cool, but yeah, it's just like 1,000 or less milliamp difference. It's very negligible, and it won't, for me personally, it doesn't hold any weight in terms of deciding, you know, what smartphone to buy. Like I think the Red Magic phone with the 7,000 milliamp, that is kind of a significant jump in difference. But even that, somebody who plays a lot of games, you could probably burn that within 7 hours anyways. So it's like bigger battery, but you still kind of get around a similar screen on time depending on what you're doing. I know if you play a lot of games, then you're going to burn a Samsung device even faster than the Red Magic device. That's just how it works. But yeah, hopefully what I'm saying makes sense. It's kind of disappointing, but it's not a deal breaker in my opinion. And I think this phone will still have really good battery life because the new processor and hopefully this new Snapdragon chip is more efficient. It has the 3nm architecture, so that is really good as well for efficiency and power and all that kind of stuff. So like, it's not the end of the world, you know. 5,000 milliamps is still a really good sized battery, and it's a golden standard in my opinion. Samsung could have definitely gave more with the hardware, but the battery is not the thing that I'm complaining about or I care about personally. What I actually care about and what I actually am cheesed about, you know, Samsung, you cheese me for this, is the S Pen. These mans took the S Pen and removed the Bluetooth capability. Personally, I don't understand that, because in Canada, if you're buying the 512 gig model, you know, with no discounts and stuff, it's around like 2,100 before tax. You're paying that much for a phone that, you know, one of its core features is the S Pen, and Samsung is removing like half of the S Pen's functionality. That is crazy to me. Like the Bluetooth S Pen, I use the, you know, the gestures to swipe through videos, change the song, but most importantly, I use it to control my camera. You know, I can just pop out the S Pen and, you know, press the button to start recording video or take a picture and stuff like that. And I guess that is really annoying in my opinion that Samsung would, you know, remove that feature. And also you can use the Bluetooth functionality to find your S Pen or to be notified that it's not with you and stuff like that, that you left it somewhere. Like it just, like, I don't know, man. Samsung removed some certain features, and I guess like people have been saying for years they don't really use the S Pen, and like it's only a select few amount of people that actually use the S Pen on Ultra phones and the Notes and stuff like that. Yeah, the Bluetooth S Pen was a staple, and I'm sad to see that they removed the Bluetooth capability. And if they repackage it and sell it as a separate pen, that's kind of annoying, but at least you have the option of using a Bluetooth pen still. But that's the main thing I'm cheesed about, and I'm You know, just like looking at Samsung, like why would you do this, fam? Like, you know, it's kind of a diss thing, but it is what it is. The phone is still gonna be really good, I think. And you know, the upgraded ultra wide camera, I'm all for that. You know, having 50 megapixels across the board. Like I know megapixels have been like overblown in recent years, but like the 50 megapixel ultra wide camera and even the 50 megapixel, you know, 5x zoom, those really help in terms of like using those extra lenses. You know, but usually it's just the main camera that is good and respectable. But seeing the ultra wide and the zoom camera get upgraded definitely makes me feel better about the camera system, because I do think Samsung has some of the most versatile camera systems, and like in terms of features and stuff, like we have film on different cameras at the same time, so I can film on the selfie camera and the rear camera at the same time, and another camera you can you know, have pro mode where you can dial in your own custom settings and stuff like that, adjust the ISO, shutter speed for video and photography, and now you can even shoot in log and stuff like that. Like Samsung phones just have a lot of features and in terms of the cameras, and so seeing the upgraded ultra wide camera is really nice, and hopefully it performs well. And it's not just something, it's not just a number on paper. But yeah, overall, I'm excited to test it though. Obviously, it is kind of disappointing with how little has changed, or like, you know, the battery type not being upgraded. But at the same time, I really like the new design. I like how it looks. It's probably going to feel better than the S24 Ultra. Hopefully the matte screen is still there and it still is nice. Hopefully it's, you know, performs well in terms of efficiency and battery life and power. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to testing out. Video editing. If you guys care about video editing on your mobile phones, smartphones, subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be testing that out, comparing it to the OnePlus 13, which I'm filming on right now. A lot of videos planned, and I already ordered my S25 Ultra, and yeah, the videos are coming. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on what you think about the S25 Ultra, the S25s in general, and what Samsung is doing. If you are somebody who doesn't like what they're doing, if you feel like they're Apple or whatever, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next video, we're out. Peace.